that when on the go. And then Voltage comes along and is like, we've developed a way to provision you your own node that we don't see what's happening whatsoever. We don't know what you're doing. We have no access to your funds, and everything's encrypted client side with your node unlock password, basically. So even if we wanted to see what you were doing, we can't do anything. The worst that the worst that Voltage could do is basically remove access to your Voltage dashboard per se, but that doesn't mean you lose your money. That doesn't mean that we take your money. It just means that if that worst case happened, you'd have to recover just as if your hardware broke down or something, which is a really interesting solution. And I find that so far, a lot of folks that are wanting to sell things on Shopify or even BTC Pay Server, which Voltage does have natively integrated into the platform, really like that they don't need to deal with updates, upgrades, uptime, and that sort of hands-on requirement of running a physical node at home. So we're building that out and working on some other things too. So to boil it all down, I think that it's just there's so many user types, right? So maybe, for example, you could run your routing node at home because you have physical access to that, you know the configurations and everything. But then maybe you're a node, you can run a second node that you just buy things with, right? That could be your Voltage node, for example, which you can run on Neutrino, which is a little bit more affordable than a standard node for the Voltage platform, and connect to it with Zeus, and boom, you're all set. You open up a couple big channels to like async or something, or bit refill if you're using gift cards a lot, and off you go, and you don't have to worry about your routing node touching any of that.
Yeah, okay. So let me summarize a little bit. So if you are just looking to be a very basic user and you just want to be able to spend and receive, and you're not that concerned about sort of the privacy, self-sovereignty, I mean, you can just literally use one of those phone wallet apps, right? Like the Phoenix, Moon, Breeze, some of these others. And then let's say when you're at the level of, let's say, learning about Lightning Network nodes and you want to run one just to learn, that's where, let's say, the Raspberry Blitz and Umbrella and things like that, you can do that. And of course, I mean, there are users who do use their Raspberry Blitz as their routing node, so you can absolutely do that. And then let's say you want to take it the next level up, that's where you have like the box at your home, as you spelled out. You're using a mini tower approach. And I guess the main trade-offs and balances there are that you might be able to run with more beefy hardware, and therefore, because of the gossip network, because of, let's say, everyone's having to run this channels database and all this other stuff that's going in and out of that, having a more beefy box can help you with that. And then obviously the VPS option is great for people who are wanting to run an even larger node, and they're maybe slightly less concerned about the self-sovereignty part of it, but they want more the availability. Maybe they want to be able to travel, and maybe they want some of that, the ease aspect of it, because the VPS, the provider, VPS, Virtual Private Server, is running some of that in the background for you. And let's say the professional cloud infrastructure is being done in a way where they ensure very high uptime, very high availability, some of these professional level concerns. So that's probably just a basic overview of the different options that you can go with there. Now, also curious from a Lightning implementation point of view, because there are different implementations, right? So obviously LND from Lightning Labs is one of the big ones. Core Lightning now, it used to be called C Lightning by Blockstream. We've got Rust Lightning and let's call it Sensei which is utilizing that. We have the Electrum Lightning implementation, and there's also the async implementation. Those are probably the well-known ones. There might be one or two other smaller ones. Do you have any thoughts on the different Lightning implementations? Do you have any that you prefer using?
For sure, yeah. So I guess we just need to define what a node is really quick. So a node is just software running on your computer, right? Or somewhere. And that node software has the ability to interact with other node software. So like when we say these implementations, they all operate under at least the first 11 bolts, which is the basis of Lightning technology, a sort of a rule set for interoperability between all the implementations. There's some debate about bolt 12, but we can talk about that another time, but at least the first 11 bolts are pretty much agreed on. So if I'm running a LND node made by Lightning Labs and you're running a core Lightning node made by Blockstream, we still open up channels with each other and do things, no problem. There are different features, though, that are on top of that sort of base interoperability that each implementation might have. For example, Lightning Labs has the loop service and the pool service. Core Lightning has liquidity ads and a few other things. So LND is definitely more consumer grade, I would say, meaning the ease of use and the build out of it is they're focusing a lot on user experience. For example, they have a Lightning Terminal app that lets you easily, graphical user interface, interact with their pool and loop services and stuff, where Blockstream's Core Lightning is more focused on features and maybe more of an enterprise grade setup. There are some third-party apps that provide a user interface for Core Lightning. Ride the Lightning is one of them. And then we're getting into, Eclair, funny enough, Eclair is the implementation built by Async. They've been around since the beginning. As a matter of fact, the very first time I used Lightning was on the Eclair wallet, which was pretty fun for the time. And I think that they're really focused on the mobile setup a little bit. Like Phoenix is their sort of next gen wallet that's been out for a while, mobile wallet that I highly recommend people try out. I think it's really great. And now we have the LDK, the Lightning Development Kit, which is basically put together by Spiral, which is a sort of development team funded by Block,
which used to be called Square. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the LDK is kind of cool because now if you are a developer or a development team and you have sort of a really cool idea, you can essentially use these libraries in this development kit to piece together the foundation of your own implementation, and then you can build whatever cool stuff you want on top of that. Sensei is a really good example of that. John Cantrell, which you had on recently, talked about Sensei, which I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about other LDK sort of ideas. I think the child node concept is very, very interesting, and I'm excited to see where that really goes. So those are definitely the major implementations right now. And if a lot of people say, gosh, well, geez, if Lightning Labs and Blockstream have like a stranglehold on this for a long time, what does that mean? And I really see them someday. I mean, this might not be true, but someday I think that there'll be a lot of implementations, all for specific use cases. There might be like a merchant-focused implementation someday that has really cool merchant accounting features, or a gaming implementation for those that someday in the future are building video games that have something to do with Sats and Lightning. So I'm excited to see that sort of ecosystem build out in the coming years.
Gotcha. And so from your perspective, when you're coaching and helping educate, what are some of the typical implementations you've been working with? Has it typically been helping people with their LND or with their C Lightning or Core Lightning, rather?
Yeah, it's definitely been LND probably near 100% of the time. I've still have very little experience with C Lightning or Core Lightning, even though my good friend Lisa over at Blockstream is constantly trying to get me to run one. I just haven't had the time yet. They're coming out with a version update here soon that they're getting excited about. 0.11 is coming out soon. They're already at like the third release candidate, so the final version should be out any day now. So I might have to. The problem is too is Raspberry Pis are really hard to find now. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get a C Lightning going soon. I have not run any other node implementations though. I have run Sensei on Reg Test for fun. I don't think that really counts though because it's not quite there yet. But definitely LND 99.9% of the time.
Gotcha. And so let's talk a little bit about setting up your own Lightning node and some of the getting started points there. So let's say you're setting up your Lightning node. What are some of the things you should be doing at the start? Maybe in terms of channel opening as well. Like how do you pick who you open channels with?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I'm assuming that maybe we want to eventually have a routing node, but we want to kind of like learn a little bit first. The first thing that you're going to want to do is decide how much capital you want to allocate to your node at the beginning. You want to say, hey, I want to open up 10 million sats worth of channels or 20 million sats worth of channels. You want to have these numbers in your head. You don't want to just like open up willy-nilly, because that will help you decide what size channels to open with once you get going. So for example, if I wanted to put a whole Bitcoin into bootstrapping a new routing node, I would probably say, okay, I probably want 15 to 20 channels of like 5 to 7 million sats each, and just have a nice little divisibility on that. The hardest part about bootstrapping a node, though, meaning, getting started, is you need inbound liquidity for other people's payments to flow through you, which is for some the hardest to get. Some people have it easier because some people might have a footprint on social media or something, and they can say, hey, I just started a new node, open up channels with me, and the whole community will jump in and give them tons of inbound. But for the normal sort of person that just wants to like get going, and not only that, but like the sovereign person that wants to not even tell anybody about it, now it's pretty challenging, because unless you start a new NIM or something and go into the Telegram groups and say, hey, I'm starting a routing node, so I'm gonna open up a channel with me, yada yada yada. That's a hard sell, because routing nodes want to open up channels with folks that will sort of reciprocate or add value to their own node as well, because your routing node is only as good as the peers you're connected to at the end of the day. So there has to be some sort of incentive there. So that incentive can come from something like Lightning Pool or liquidity ads for Core Lightning, where you're opening up a channel to somebody, but they're paying you to do so, basically. Now that might not be for everybody, but that is an option. One of the quickest ways I've found to sort of bootstrap that initial inbound liquidity is using atomic swap services like Loop or Bolts. What that is you essentially open up a channel, and then you go to this service and you say, hey, so for example, if I open up a 5 million sat channel, I can say, hey, I want to move 4 million sats out of that 5 million sat channel to the other side. And what I'm essentially doing is I'm paying somebody those sats, and then they're saying, okay, pay me those 4 million sats, and I will send you those 4 million back on chain. And now you have 4 million of inbound. And of course, they take a little bit of a fee for that service, but now you've bootstrapped a good amount of inbound for your node. And that's probably the hardest thing to do. One of the easiest ways to get inbound, though, is to just spend sats, really, because if you're spending it, you're moving it over. So if you want to spend sats on a bunch of gift cards or something, you can do that as well. Any questions so far?
Yeah, no, that all makes a lot of sense. So in terms of who you pick, though, for channel opening, how does a new person do that?
Yeah, so if I'm looking for quality peers, so you're basically playing a game with incomplete information. It's a lot like poker. But thankfully, a lot of information about public-facing nodes and channels are sort of put together in very easy to read public databases such as amboss.space. 1ML used to be the leader in that, but 1ML, I don't even know who runs 1ML actually, but they haven't really updated it or done anything in a long time. So Tony, who built ThunderHub, and Justifer, who's a really good friend of mine, also are building this amboss.space platform where you can go and you can see, basically look at a node, you can see what their channels are, see what their capacities are, and see what their fee rates are like, and that sort of thing. So there's multiple factors. My biggest factor, though, is how many channels does the node I'm opening up with have, and what is their average channel size? If I'm looking to open up a 5 million sat channel, I don't want to open up a 5 million sat channel with a node that has 500,000 sat average size, right? Even with really cool things like multipath payments, that's still sort of a bottleneck because not everybody uses AMP and multipath payments right now. So that is, I want that average channel size to be near the size that I want to open. And generally, if they have at least 20 channels, that's good. The age of the node also needs to sort of be taken into account. And you can go to terminal.lightning.engineering and see if which is a Lightning Lab sort of ranking database using their own arbitrary metrics. But it gives you a good idea if they're online or offline a lot, because they'll have this pretty green color next to their node name. So I would use lightning.terminal.engineering in conjunction with amboss.space to sort of vet nodes that I'm looking to open up with. A lot of people think that they just want to open up nodes or channels to the biggest nodes on the network and they're going to be all set. But for a routing node, that's not quite the best idea. It's okay to have a few channels like that. But the issue is if you're just connecting to big routing nodes on the network, or just big nodes in general on the network, you're essentially competing with all the other channels that are with them. So the ultimate goal of a routing node is to find paths from medium to smaller nodes that are making payments to go to services and where you think that traffic is flowing to. So maybe you want to open up a channel with bit refill, and then you want to go and maybe open up some channels to like some smaller nodes also, and have a variety of connections. And yeah, we could go deep into theory on that, but that's
yeah, no, I think that's a good high level idea.
Which is a heck of a rabbit hole itself, but yeah.
Back to the show in a moment. Have you thought about upgrading to multi-signature with Unchained Capital? Unchained have collaborative custody, so they can make it easy for you to hold 2 keys and for them to hold the 3rd key, giving you some additional peace of mind, and it might help you sleep at night knowing that one error won't make you lose all your coins. And so in Bitcoin security, we want to try to remove our single points of failure, and you can do this with 2 hardware wallets. So with Unchained Capital, they've got a concierge onboarding program where you can pay up front. They'll ship you 2 hardware wallets, they'll do a call with you and deposit some Bitcoin in your vault, and there's some ongoing support also, so you can do this even if you've never held your own private keys before. So this is a great way to improve your security, take away those single points of failure. Go to unchained.com and use the code Livera on the concierge onboarding program for a discount. So with Bitcoin security, you've got to go and check out coinkite.com. Not only do they offer the Cold Card, which is my favorite Bitcoin hardware wallet, they offer a range of products that you will love. They've got the block clock, they've got metal backup seed products like the seed plate. So if you have written down your 24 seed words on a piece of paper, well, think about upgrading to a metal stamping solution. So that way you don't lose your coins if natural disasters or accidents happen, such as a fire or other natural disasters. So make sure you are looking out for your Bitcoin security and your backups. Go to coinkite.com and use the code Livera for a discount there. Brains are a Bitcoin mining company through and through, and they've got Brains OS Plus. This is firmware that you can install on your ASIC machine to give you more hash rate for your electricity bill. They help you auto-tune your miners to help you get the maximum performance and efficiency. So go to brains.com, that's brains with 2 I's, and you can see which models are supported there. Also on that website, you can see a range of content. I really enjoy reading their blog posts, and they've also got an analytics dashboard which shows all kinds of statistics about Bitcoin mining, profitability calculations, and all sorts of useful information for anyone interested in Bitcoin mining. That website is brains.com. Back to the show with Nate. Yeah, for sure. But I think just to give people a flavor and just to summarize, and I think that's right, the general idea is that you want to open channels in the direction that you believe the flow is going to go, right? So let's say you believe, if you knew there's a new hot merchant in town, and you believe everyone's going to be paying them